The emergency session convened in the underground bunkers beneath Geneva, where the Terran Council had relocated after Princess Zephyria's fleet appeared in Earth's outer system. Admiral Sarah Chun studied the holographic display showing the massive crystalline dreadnoughts that dwarfed humanity's entire navy. 72 hours, Director Martinez repeated, his weathered face grim. She wants our greatest monster, or she'll glass every major city. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the xenobiologist, pulled up Valderon Empire records on her tablet. Their menagerie contains creatures that could level mountains. Korvik deathworms, voidstalkers, beings that evolved on worlds where survival required killing. Everything in sight. What could we possibly send that would impress her? Admiral Chun's aide, Lieutenant Rodriguez, burst through the reinforced doors. Ma'am, we've got movement in the residential sectors. Families are evacuating to the deep shelters. Through the chamber's reinforced windows, they could see ordinary people going about their business despite the crisis. Children walked to school. Teenagers argued with parents about curfews. Elderly couples tended their gardens. Normal human life continuing in defiance of cosmic threat. The princess expects a biological weapon, Sean said slowly, watching a group of teenagers skateboard past military checkpoints. Something that kills and destroys. But what if we sent something else entirely? Sarah, what are you thinking? Martinez asked. Chun pulled up personnel files, scrolling past military records to civilian databases. My daughter Emma is 16. Honor student, debate team captain, volunteers at the animal shelter. Last week she organized a protest because the school tried to ban cell phones. She's never backed down from anything in her life. Dr. Tanaka frowned. You can't seriously be considering. Think about it, Sean interrupted. Zephyria breaks. Creatures through neural conditioning that targets predatory instincts. But what happens when you try to condition something that wasn't built for violence? Something designed for community, creativity, and stubborn independence? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It's psychological warfare, Martinez breathed. We're not sending a monster that can destroy our empire. We're sending one that can free it. Sean nodded, her decision crystallizing. Emma represents everything Zephyr's system is designed to crush individual freedom. The refusal to bow, the belief that everyone deserves dignity. If anyone can survive that palace and turn her greatest strength into weakness, it's a human. Teenager who's never been told she can't change the world. Outside, Emma Chun finished her homework, unaware that her natural teenage rebellion was about to challenge an empire built on absolute control. The die was cast. Asterisk. Emma's transport pod touched down in the crystal gardens of the Valderon Palace. Its simple design stark against the gleaming spires that pierced the alien sky. Through the transparent aluminum walls, she watched robed figures approach, her first glimpse of the empire that ruled half the galaxy through fear. Princess Zephyria emerged from her hover throne, her bio-enhanced form towering 8 feet tall, skin bearing the ritual scars of conquest. Behind her walked General Corax, his cybernetic implants marking him as a member of the Threx warrior caste, and Dr. Vexhai, the Empire's chief neural conditioning specialist. This? Zephyr's voice carried the authority of absolute power. This soft little creature is Earth's greatest monster? Emma stepped from the pod wearing jeans, sneakers, and her high school debate team t-shirt. She looked around the palace grounds with undisguised curiosity rather than fear, pulling out her phone to take photos before remembering it wouldn't work here. Your Highness, Dr. Vexhai consulted his scanner. The bio readings are ... unusual. Standard aggression markers are virtually non-existent, but psychological resistance indicators are off our scales. Impossible, General Corax growled. Look at it, no claws, no fangs, no armor plating. My youngest spawn could tear it apart. Emma finally focused on her captors. studying them with the frank assessment of a teenager meeting adults for the first time. "So you're the princess," she said conversationally. "Nice place you've got here. Very dull. Must be murder to heat in winter." The casual tone sent ripples of shock through the assembled court. No being had ever addressed Zephyria without honorifics, without submission. "Silence," Zephyria commanded. "You will learn your place, creature." Emma tilted her head. "My place? I'm Emma Chun, junior class president of Mile High Academy. I'm here because a bunch of adults made a decision I didn't get to vote on. But I'm not anybody's pet, if that's what you're thinking." Dr. Vexhai activated his neural conditioning probe, targeting Emma's frontal cortex with the same patterns that had broken apex predators across the galaxy. The device hummed with psychic energy designed to shatter will and impose obedience. Emma blinked as the mental pressure hit her, then frowned. "That's really annoying. Could you stop? I'm trying to figure out how your society functions, and that's like having someone tap a pencil during a test." The probe's readings went haywire. Every creature they'd conditioned showed immediate neural compliance patterns. Emma's brain activity actually increased, as if she was analyzing the conditioning attempt itself. "Interesting," she continued, apparently unaffected. "So you use technological psychological manipulation to maintain control. That explains why. Everyone's so jumpy around here. In my sociology class, we learned that authoritarian systems depend on learned helplessness. You've basically created galaxy-wide Stockholm Syndrome." Zephyria's expression shifted from anger to something approaching uncertainty. "You will be broken, human. Every creature can be." Emma shrugged. "Maybe, but probably not the way you're thinking." 3 days into her captivity, Emma had been assigned quarters in the palace's monster wing, a series of reinforced cells housing Zephyria's collection of broken predators. Her neighbors included Thoric, a crystalline void stalker whose faceted hide could cut through starship hulls, and Grim, a psionic shadow beast whose telepathic screams had once driven entire armies insane. Neither had expected their new neighbor to slide food under their cell doors and ask about their day. "You shouldn't." Thorac's translated voice carried confusion. "Kindness between prisoners is forbidden. Punishment follows discovery." Emma sat cross-legged outside his cell. Homework spread around her. The council had insisted she keep up with her studies. Punishment for what? Being decent to each other? That's exactly the kind of rule that proves this system is messed up. Keeper Cyril, a reptilian Valderon, tasked with monitoring the monsters, observed from the shadows. He'd served in the menagerie for 30 cycles, watching countless beings surrender their will to neural conditioning. Yet this human displayed no submission patterns whatsoever. "The princess grows frustrated," Cyril informed Dr. Vexhai during the daily briefing. "Standard conditioning techniques show no effect. Enhanced neural bombardment produces only mild irritation. Yesterday, the human asked if she could help reorganize our feeding schedules for better efficiency." Dr. Vexhai consulted his data tablets. "Impossible. Every sentient species has psychological pressure points. Fear of pain, survival instincts, social hierarchy needs. This one seems immune to traditional fear responses," Cyril interrupted. "When threatened with dismemberment, she requested documentation of our safety protocols. When told she faced death, she asked if we had grief counselors for the staff who would perform the execution." In the menagerie, Emma was conducting what she called group therapy. Thorac and Grim had initially resisted, but her complete lack of fear gradually drew them out. "So let me understand," Emma said, taking notes. "Thorac, you're from a crystal planet where survival meant being the hardest, sharpest thing around. And Grim, your species used psionics for pack hunting. Neither of you were actually evil. You were just being yourselves until someone decided to kidnap and torture you into submission. Grimm's mental voice was hesitant. The concept, unfamiliar. We exist to serve the princess. No, you exist because you're living beings with inherent worth, Emma corrected firmly. Serving the princess is something being done to you, not something you are. There's a difference. Thorak's crystalline form resonated with uncertainty. But without purpose given by superiors, what meaning exists? Emma grinned. That's the beautiful thing about freedom. You get to decide your own purpose. It's scary at first, but it's also the most amazing feeling in the universe. That night, Keeper Cyril filed his report with growing unease. The human wasn't being broken by captivity. Instead, she was systematically demonstrating that captivity itself was a choice, one that could be unmade. For the first time in 30 cycles, he found himself questioning whether the locks on the cells were meant to keep the monsters in, or to keep dangerous ideas out. Asterisk. Word of the unbreakable human spread through the palace staff like wildfire. Servants whispered about the young creature, who thanked them for bringing food, asked about their families, and treated them like people rather than invisible fixtures. Nara, a Zephyrian cleaning drone, found herself lingering outside Emma's cell during her rounds. The human had been explaining something called labor rights to Thorak and Grimm, but her words carried to anyone willing to listen. Every being deserves fair compensation for their work, Emma was saying, and the right to refuse tasks that violate their conscience. Where I come from, we had to fight for these things, but now they're considered basic human dignity. Such concepts would destabilize the Empire, Thorak observed. Maybe the Empire needs destabilizing, Emma replied, cheerfully. Systems that only work through oppression aren't sustainable anyway. Eventually, people remember that their power comes from them choosing to give it up. Nara's cleaning task forgotten, she found herself transmitting the conversation to other staff members through encrypted channels. Similar discussions were sprouting throughout the palace as Emma's influence spread like a virus through the rigid hierarchy. Princess Zephyria, meanwhile, grew increasingly desperate. She'd subjected Emma to every conditioning protocol in this imperial arsenal. Pain compliance, sensory deprivation, psychological manipulation. Nothing worked. The human's brain seemed fundamentally immune to techniques that had broken creatures evolved for violence. She's making them think, General, Korax reported during the Emergency War Council. The monsters, the staff, even some of our junior officers. Yesterday, a maintenance crew requested permission to form a worker advocacy group. I had them executed, but others filed formal complaints about the executions. Complaints? Zephyria's voice was deadly quiet. Dr. Vexhai nervously consulted. His reports. The human has introduced concepts we've never encountered. Individual rights, democratic participation, voluntary cooperation. Our subjects are beginning to question why they obey orders they've never agreed to follow. The crisis reached its peak when Keeper Cyril requested a private audience with the princess, an unprecedented breach of protocol, standing before the crystalline throne. The reptilian servant did something no Valderon had done in living memory. He looked directly into Zephyria's eyes. Your Highness, he said carefully, I have served loyally for 30 cycles. But the human has raised questions I cannot answer. Why do I clean cells for creatures who commit no crimes? Why do I facilitate conditioning that causes suffering? I require ... clarification of purpose. Zephyria stared at her lifelong servant, one of thousands who had never questioned, never hesitated, never displayed independent thought. You are glitched, Cyril. Report for neural adjustment. With respect, Your Highness, I believe I am functioning correctly for the first time in my existence. I choose to refuse harmful orders. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Around the throne room, other servants straightened, their own doubts crystallizing into something approaching courage. Emma Chun, from her cell in the menagerie, had just demonstrated the most terrifying truth in the galaxy, that oppression only worked when people believed they had no choice. The palace-wide uprising began at dawn. It wasn't violent. Emma had taught them better than that. Instead, it was a simple, coordinated refusal to participate in their own oppression. Servants stopped reporting for duty. Guards refused orders to punish questioners. In the menagerie, the monsters began testing their cage doors and discovering that most locks only worked when the imprisoned believed they should. Thorax, crystalline form, shattered his cell walls like glass. Freedom, he said wonderingly. Choice. These concepts, they reshape reality itself. Grin's shadow form flowed free, his psionic voice carrying across the palace. The human speaks truth. We were never truly captured, only convinced we could. Not leave. Emma found herself standing in the palace's central courtyard as chaos erupted around her. Not destructive chaos, but the beautiful disorder of people discovering they could choose their own paths. Some servants fled. Others demanded negotiations with Zephyria. A few simply sat down and wept for years of lost autonomy. Princess Zephyria emerged from her tower, bio-enhanced form trembling with rage and something that might have been fear. "You have destroyed my empire," she screamed at Emma. "No," Emma replied calmly. "I just showed people that it was never really yours to begin with. You ruled through fear and conditioning, but those only work when people don't realize they have options. I could kill you where you stand." Emma nodded seriously. "You could, but that wouldn't change what's already happened. Every person here now knows they can choose. Every world in your empire will hear about this. The idea is out there, and ideas are harder to kill than people." General Corax approached with his remaining loyal troops, weapons raised. But Keeper Cyril and hundreds of palace staff moved to surround Emma, not to capture her, but to protect her. "Stand down," Cyril commanded, his voice carrying new authority. "We no longer recognize orders that harm innocents." Zephyria stared at the scene in disbelief. Her perfect system of control crumbling because one human teenager had refused to accept that anyone could own her spirit. "What do you want?" the princess asked finally. Emma considered the question seriously. "I want to go home and finish my junior year. I want these people to have the right to choose their own government. And I want you to understand that real strength doesn't come from making others weak. It comes from helping them become strong." 3 months later, Emma Chun sat in her debate class in Denver, explaining her summer experience to classmates who thought she was making up the wildest science fiction story ever told. Outside, the first Valderon diplomatic ship landed at the newly constructed embassy. Its crew, consisting entirely of former servants who had chosen to represent their worlds in the emerging galactic democracy. The girl who had been sent as Earth's greatest monster had indeed proven monstrous to tyranny itself. She had demonstrated that the human spirit, when truly free, was utterly untamable. And across the galaxy, that spirit was spreading, one choice at a time.